The First Contact Protocol. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the exploration vessel Prometheus Dawn, watching stars drift past like scattered diamonds against black velvet. 3 years ago, humanity had achieved faster than light travel. 2 years ago, they had discovered they were not alone in the universe. Today, everything would change again. "Commander, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system," announced Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the bridge. "Long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures on the third planet." Sarah felt her heart quicken. This would be humanity's fourth contact with alien life, and each encounter had taught them something new about the galaxy they now called home. The first contact had been with a machine intelligence that barely acknowledged their existence. The second was with a species so advanced they treated humans like curious children. The third contact had ended in violence when the aliens tried to claim Earth as their territory. That third contact had taught humanity an important lesson about survival in space. Sometimes peaceful intentions were not enough. Sometimes you had to show your teeth to be taken seriously. "Take us to Yellow Alert and prepare the first contact protocols," Sarah ordered as she walked onto the bridge. "And Marcus, make sure our defensive systems are ready but not active. We want to look friendly but prepared." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her scanner readings. "Commander, these readings are unlike anything we've seen before. The energy signatures suggest a crystalline-based life form. Their cities seem to be grown rather than built." As the Prometheus Dawn entered orbit around the planet, Sarah marveled at what she saw on the main screen. Beautiful crystal formations rose from the surface like frozen music, each structure pulsing with soft, colorful light. The entire planet seemed to glow with gentle radiance. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka. "It's not audio or visual. The signal appears to be pure light patterns." Dr. Vasquez worked quickly at her station. "I think I can decode this. The patterns are mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and geometric shapes. They're trying to establish basic communication." Sarah nodded. "Respond with the same type of signal. Let them know we understand." For the next 6 hours, the two species exchanged increasingly complex light patterns. Gradually, a basic communication system emerged. The aliens called themselves the Kithara, and they were indeed crystalline beings who had evolved from living minerals. They communicated through controlled light emissions and had built a peaceful civilization based on harmony and artistic expression. "They're beautiful, Commander," Dr. Vasquez said, watching the translated light patterns dance across her screen. "Their entire culture revolves around creating light art and growing crystal gardens. They've never known war or violence." Sarah felt protective instincts stir within her. In her military career, she had learned to recognize innocence when she saw it. The Kithara were genuinely good beings who had never needed to develop weapons or defensive strategies. They were exactly the kind of species that needed protection in a dangerous galaxy. "Request permission to send down a diplomatic team," Sarah said. "Let's meet our new neighbors properly." The first face-to-face meeting took place in a crystal garden that sparkled like captured starlight. The Kithara delegation was led by a being who introduced herself as Resonance of Dawn, a name that described the beautiful aurora patterns she could create with her crystalline form. "Your species brings new harmonies to our world," Resonance of Dawn communicated through gentle pulses of blue and gold light. "We have watched the stars for generations, hoping to find others who appreciate beauty and peace." Sarah smiled, feeling genuine warmth toward these gentle beings. "Humanity values peace as well, though we've had to fight for it sometimes. We would be honored to establish friendship and trade agreements with the Kithara." As they spoke, another ship appeared in the system's outer reaches. This vessel was different, larger, more angular, and clearly built for war rather than exploration. Sarah's communicator crackled to life. "Commander, we have a new contact," Lieutenant Webb reported. "Unknown vessel, heavily armed, approaching at high speed." Before Sarah could respond, The alien ship sent a transmission in perfect galactic standard, a language that most spacefaring species had adopted for interspecies communication. Attention primitive species. You are in territory claimed by the Valdres Trade Collective. State your business or prepare to be boarded. Sarah frowned. The message sounded aggressive, but something about the phrasing seemed more nervous than hostile. Open communications. Let's see what they want. The main screen filled with the image of a small, furry alien with large eyes and delicate hands. Despite the harsh words, the creature looked more scared than threatening. I am Trade Master Quillix of the Valdres Collective, the alien said, his voice high-pitched but intelligent. We have mining rights in this system. Are you here to steal our asteroid claims? Dr. Vasquez quickly consulted her databases. Commander, the Valdres are mentioned in our galactic intelligence files. They're master traders and miners, but they're small and physically weak. They're often bullied by larger species. Sarah understood immediately. Like the Kythera, the Valdres were another species that had learned to survive through skill and intelligence rather than force. They were naturally suspicious because they had been taken advantage of before. Trade Master Quillix, I am Commander Sarah Chen of the human exploration vessel Prometheus Dawn. We're here on a peaceful diplomatic mission with the Kythera. We have no interest in your mining claims and would actually like to discuss trade opportunities with your people. The change in Quillix's expression was immediate. His large eyes brightened, and his ears perked up with interest. Humans, we have heard rumors about your species. You defeated the Nexus Raiders who were attacking merchant convoys near the Centauri system. Is it true that you destroyed an entire raider fleet to protect ships that weren't even your own? Sarah nodded. The raiders were attacking innocent civilians. We couldn't stand by and watch. Quillix's whiskers twitched with what appeared to be excitement. Most species only protect their own kind. You protected strangers. This is unusual. Good, but unusual. Over the next few days, humanity established formal diplomatic relations with both the Kythera and the Valdres. The three species seemed perfectly suited to become allies. The Kythera offered artistic techniques and energy-efficient crystal technology. The Valdres provided rare minerals and sophisticated trading networks. Humans contributed military protection and engineering knowledge. Sarah was reviewing the preliminary trade agreements when her peaceful negotiations were interrupted by the arrival of a massive fleet. 12 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls painted with intimidating symbols and armed with enough firepower to destroy a small planet. All vessels, this is War Prime Kextar of the Zorathian Empire, came a transmission in a deep, threatening voice. You are trespassing in Zorathian space. Prepare to be boarded and processed. The main screen showed a reptilian alien with scales like armor and teeth like daggers. His eyes were cold and calculating, and every word he spoke dripped with arrogance and menace. This system belongs to the Kythera, Sarah replied calmly. We are here as their invited guests, conducting peaceful diplomatic negotiations. Kextar's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. The crystal creatures belong to us now, so do the small furry ones. They will pay tribute to the Zorathian Empire or be destroyed. As for you humans, you have two choices. Flee now and never return, or become our slaves along with the others. Sarah felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. She had hoped they could avoid this kind of confrontation, but some species only understood one language. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the commander. We are now at red alert. Prepare for possible combat operations. All diplomatic personnel, evacuate to the Kythera surface immediately. She turned back to the screen where Kextar was still smirking with confidence. War Prime Kextar, I want to make something very clear to you and your empire. The Kythera and Valdres are now under human protection. Any attack on them will be considered an attack on humanity itself. Humans have been in space for less than 5 years, Kextar sneered. The Zorathian Empire has conquered worlds for over 1,000 years. What could you possibly do to stop us? Sarah's voice remained calm, but her eyes grew hard as steel. This is your warning, War Prime. The only warning you will receive. Leave this system immediately and never threaten our allies again. If you ignore this warning, you will learn why humans survived long enough to reach the stars. Kextar's expression changed slightly. Something in Sarah's tone seemed to penetrate his arrogance, but only for a moment. Then his cruel smile returned. 1 human ship against 12 Zorathian battlecruisers. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. We will give you 1 day to reconsider. Tomorrow, you will watch us destroy your precious crystal friends, and then you will beg to serve the Empire. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. Around her, the bridge crew waited for orders. She could feel their tension, their readiness to follow her into battle against impossible odds. Commander, Dr. Vasquez said quietly, maybe we should call for reinforcements from Earth. Sarah shook her head. There's no time. Besides, if we're going to be protectors of innocent species, we need to prove we can handle threats like this. She turned to her crew. I want full tactical analysis of their fleet. Find weaknesses, study their formation patterns, and prepare our surprise packages. Lieutenant Webb looked confused. Surprise packages, Commander. Sarah smiled grimly. The Zorathians think they know what humans are capable of because we've only been in space for a few years. They're about to learn that surviving on Earth for millions of years taught us a few things about warfare that can't be learned from textbooks. As night fell over the crystal gardens of the Kithera homeworld, both Resonance of Dawn and Trade Master Quilix contacted the human ship with similar messages. They were grateful for humanity's protection, but they urged Sarah to flee. Neither species wanted to see their new human friends destroyed for their sake. Sarah's response to both of them was the same. Humans don't abandon their friends. Ever. We made you a promise of protection, and we keep our promises. That night, as the Zorathian fleet maintained its threatening position in the outer system, Sarah worked with her crew to prepare for what would become known throughout the galaxy as the Battle of Kepler 442. It would be the first time an alien species learned the true meaning of the human saying, "We only give one warning." The Zorathians had been warned. They had chosen to ignore that warning. Tomorrow, they would pay the price for that mistake, and the galaxy would learn a new rule. Never ignore a human warning, because humans always keep their word. As Sarah finally tried to get some rest before the battle, she thought about her childhood on Earth. Her grandmother had always told her that the most dangerous animal was not the biggest or strongest, but the one that protected its family. Tomorrow, the Zorathians would discover that humanity's new family included some very special crystal beings and furry traders who deserved better than to live in fear of bullies. The warning had been given. The choice had been made. Now came the consequences. The price of ignoring human warnings. Dawn broke over the crystal gardens of the Kithera homeworld with brilliant colors that painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the crystal grove where she had first met Resonance of Dawn, but now the beautiful light patterns pulsing through the crystalline structures seemed dim with worry. The Zorathians are moving. Lieutenant Webb's voice crackled through her communicator. All 12 ships are advancing toward the planet. Sarah looked up at the sky where she could see the distant points of light that represented War Prime Kextar's fleet. In a few hours, those lights would either be gone or she would be dead. There was no middle ground when dealing with species like the Zorathians. Execute Protocol Omega, she said quietly into her communicator. Authorization, Chen, Alpha 77. On the bridge of the Prometheus Dawn, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Protocol Omega was something they had hoped never to use, but every human ship carried the same capability. It was humanity's answer to the question of how to protect their friends when outnumbered and outgunned. Dr. Vasquez monitored the tactical displays with growing concern. Sarah, they're not just targeting our ship. Their attack pattern shows they plan to bombard the crystal cities first. They want to hurt the Kithera to make a point. Sarah felt rage building in her chest like a cold fire. The Zorathians weren't just threatening her crew or even humanity. They were planning to murder innocent beings whose only crime was accepting human friendship. Trademaster Quillix is requesting permission to evacuate his people from the mining stations, reported Communications Officer Tanaka. He says his ships are too slow to escape if the Zorathians decide to hunt them. Tell him negative, Sarah replied. His people won't need to run. The Zorathians won't be hunting anyone after today. The first attack came at exactly noon, local time. Zorathian battlecruisers opened fire on the Crystal Gardens from orbit, their energy weapons designed to cause maximum psychological damage. They wanted the Kithera to see their beautiful creations destroyed before they themselves were killed. Sarah watched the first explosions bloom like deadly flowers across the crystal cities. She saw ancient gardens that had taken centuries to grow shattered in seconds. She saw Kithera civilians running in terror, their light patterns now pulsing with fear and pain instead of beauty and joy. Commander, I'm detecting casualties among the Kithera population, Dr. Vasquez reported, her voice tight with emotion. They're targeting the nursery areas where the young crystals are grown. That was when Sarah Chen, diplomat and explorer, stepped aside and let Sarah Chen, human warrior, take control. All stations, this is the commander. Forget everything you know about proportional response. Forget everything you know about measured retaliation. The Zorathians just hurt children to make a point. They crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. She opened a channel to the Zorathian fleet. War Prime Kextar's reptilian face appeared on the screen, his cold eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Do you see, human? This is what happens to those who defy the Zorathian Empire. Surrender now, and we will make their deaths quick. Sarah looked directly into Kextar's eyes, with an expression that made the war-hardened alien actually take a step back. You were warned, War Prime. You were told what would happen if you hurt our friends. You chose to ignore that warning. What can one human ship do against 12 Zorathian battlecruisers? Kextar snarled, though something in his voice suggested he was no longer as confident as before. You're about to find out, Sarah replied. End transmission. The screen went dark, and Sarah turned to her crew. Every human on the bridge was watching her, with expressions of grim determination. They had all seen the damage to the crystal cities. They had all heard the reports of injured Kithera children. They were all ready to do whatever it took to make the Zorathians pay. Lieutenant Webb, activate the ghost protocols. Dr. Vasquez, release the hunter packages. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, give me everything the engines have and then give me more. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The single human exploration vessel seemed to split into 12 identical ships, each one targeting a different Zorathian battlecruiser. The Zorathians, confused by the sudden multiplication of targets, began firing wildly at holographic projections, while the real Prometheus Dawn moved like a deadly shadow through their formation. The first Zorathian ship to die was the one that had fired on the Kithera nurseries. Sarah had made sure of that. The human ship's weapons, designed with technology reverse-engineered from 3 different alien civilizations, punched through Zorathian shields like they were made of paper. How are they doing this? Kextar screamed over the communications channel as his flagship shuddered under human fire. No single ship should be able to penetrate our defenses. Humans learn from everyone we meet, Sarah replied as her ship danced through Zorathian weapons fire with impossible agility. We studied Nexus Raider tactics when we fought them. We incorporated Centauri shielding technology when we traded with them. We adapted vegan sensor systems when we explored their space. Every species we've met has made us stronger. The second Zorathian ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Then the third. Then the fourth. The human ship seemed to be everywhere at once, striking with surgical precision at critical systems while avoiding the clumsy return fire of increasingly panicked Zorathians. This is impossible, Kextar roared. Humans have only been in space for 5 years. Humans have been fighting for survival for millions of years, Sarah corrected as she watched her tactical officer line up another perfect shot. We survived ice ages, predators, natural disasters, and each other. We learned to adapt, to innovate, to never give up no matter how bad the odds looked. The fifth Zorathian ship lost power and began drifting helplessly. The sixth ship tried to retreat but found its engines destroyed by precisely targeted human weapons. The seventh ship surrendered, but Sarah ignored the surrender signal. The Zorathians had hurt children. Surrender was no longer an option. "Commander," Dr. Vasquez said quietly, "the remaining Zorathian ships are trying to flee the system." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Pursue and destroy. All of them." "Sarah," Dr. Vasquez said more urgently, "some of them are surrendering. Military law requires us to accept surrenders." Sarah looked at her friend and colleague with eyes that held no mercy. "They fired on nurseries, Elena. They targeted children to make a point. Human military law has provisions for dealing with war criminals." The hunt that followed lasted 18 hours. Human ships weren't faster than Zorathian vessels, but they were smarter. Every time a Zorathian ship thought it had escaped, it found itself trapped by weapons that could fire around corners, sensors that could track through hyperspace, or tactical AI that could predict its next move before the Zorathian captain had even thought of it. When the last Zorathian ship was destroyed, Sarah opened a channel to the entire star system. Her face appeared on screens throughout Kithara crystal cities and Valdres mining stations. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the human vessel Prometheus Dawn. The Zorathian threat to this system has been eliminated. The Kithara and Valdres peoples are safe. To any other species considering similar actions, understand this: humanity gives one warning. Only one. After that, we take action." The response from the Kithara was immediate. Resonance of Dawn's light patterns blazed with colors that humans had never seen before, patterns that Dr. Vasquez translated as overwhelming gratitude mixed with awe and a little fear. "The human warriors have saved our children," Resonance of Dawn communicated. "Your species fights with the fury of stars and the precision of crystal growth. We are honored to call you friends, and we will never forget this debt." Trademaster Quillix's response was more direct. "Humans, you have done something that no species has ever done before. You defeated the Zorathian Empire not just once, but completely. Every Zorathian ship in this system is destroyed. Word of this will spread throughout the galaxy within days." Sarah felt the weight of what they had accomplished settling on her shoulders. In the space of a single day, humanity had gone from being a minor species on a galactic stage to being the most feared military force in known space. "Commander," Lieutenant Webb said, "we're receiving transmissions from over 40 different species. They all want to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." Sarah wasn't surprised. Fear was a powerful motivator, but she hoped that wasn't the only reason species would want to work with humans. "Dr. Vasquez, what's the status of the Kithara casualties?" 17 injured, but their medical technology is more advanced than we thought. They're all expected to recover fully. The crystal nurseries can be regrown within a few months." Sarah nodded. That was something, at least. The Zorathians had failed to achieve their goal of terrorizing the Kithara into submission. Instead, they had only succeeded in demonstrating that attacking human allies was a fatal mistake. Over the following weeks, the story of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Different species told different versions of the tale, but all of them agreed on the essential facts. Humanity had given the powerful Zorathian Empire a single warning, and when that warning was ignored, 12 battlecruisers had been destroyed by a single human ship. The political ramifications were immediate and far-reaching. Species that had been considering aggressive expansion suddenly found diplomatic solutions to their territorial disputes. Pirates who had been raiding trade routes disappeared overnight. Even the most powerful military empires began reaching out to humanity with offers of friendship and cooperation. But for Sarah and her crew, the most important outcome was much simpler. The Kithera children were safe. The Valders families could continue their peaceful lives. The galaxy had learned that some lines could not be crossed without consequences. Trademaster Quillix visited the Prometheus Dawn a month after the battle, bringing gifts of rare metals and sophisticated technology. But he also brought something more valuable: news from across the galaxy. The Zorathian Empire has officially ceased to exist, he reported with obvious satisfaction. When word spread that their entire fleet had been destroyed by a single human ship, their subject species rose up in rebellion. Within 2 weeks, every Zorathian colony had declared independence. Sarah felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. She had never wanted to destroy an entire civilization, but the Zorathians had made their choice when they targeted innocent children. There's something else, Quillix continued. The Galactic Trade Council has established a new law. It's called the Human Warning Protocol. Any species that threatens the allies of humanity must be given formal notice of human protection. After that, any attack on human allies is considered an act of war against humanity itself. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her research notes. So we've become the galaxy's official protectors. Sarah considered the question carefully. It wasn't a responsibility she had sought, but perhaps it was one that humanity was uniquely suited for. They had spent millions of years learning to survive against impossible odds. They had developed the perfect combination of intelligence, adaptability, and protective instincts. Not protectors, she said finally. Friends. The kind of friends who keep their promises, no matter what it costs. Resonance of Dawn's final message to the human crew was transmitted as they prepared to leave the Kepler 442 system. Her light patterns were more complex and beautiful than anything they had seen before, creating a display that brought tears to the eyes of every human who witnessed it. You came to us as strangers seeking friendship. The translation read, You stayed as warriors defending family. The crystals will remember your light for 1,000 generations. Wherever you go in the galaxy, know that you carry the gratitude of the Kithera people and the respect of all who value peace over power. As the Prometheus Dawn prepared to depart for Earth, Sarah stood once more on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that valued strength over compassion and power over justice. But it was also full of beings like the Kithera and Valders who deserved to live their lives in peace. Humanity had found its role among the stars. They would be the species that others could turn to when bullies came calling. They would be the ones who gave warnings instead of ultimatums, who sought diplomacy before violence, but who never hesitated to act when innocent lives were at stake. The human rule was simple. We only give one warning. But that warning came with an unbreakable promise. Touch our friends and pay the price. Cross the line we draw and face the consequences. Humanity had survived the dangers of Earth, and now they would help other species survive the dangers of space. The stars held many threats, but they also held many friends. And as long as humans were willing to fight for those friends, the galaxy would be a little bit safer for everyone who valued peace, beauty, and the right to live without fear. War Prime Kextar had learned this lesson too late.